Welcome back. Here is CS of Education, Amina Mohammed, on her point when it comes to registering students who have performed differently from KCPE versus KCSE. Take a look at what she had to say.
The number of candidates with minimum university entry qualifications of mean grade C+ and above is 90,377, which is almost 20,000 more than the number that we had last year, which was 70,073. Ladies and gentlemen, this year we have gone a step further to conduct an analysis of how individual candidates have performed in the KCSE relative to their performance in the KCPE 4 years ago. Our aim is to show the value add to candidates by schools depending on how much they actually improved. Based on that analysis, the candidates who improved the most, is Josephat Mwangi Kamau of Mioro Secondary School, a sub-county secondary school in Mathioya sub-county of Murang'a County. This young man, Josephat, scored only 278 marks in KCPE. He has scored a mean grade of A- with a performance index of
location.
With you. Let not the word failure define you and define your identity. You are not a failure. You may have not gotten the grades to move on to the next level. That does not make you a failure. The question is, what are your other gifts? And the people around you, anyone around anyone today who has not performed as they're supposed to have done, we need to be their encouragers, the support systems around us, to remind us that this does not define who you are. Because we know people in the past, people like Einstein, who was a great researcher, well known. He didn't make his grades. But here he is. He became the world's renowned scientist. We have many others who did not make their grades as per the measure then. So people around these people, encourage them to know what is your other gift. Now, the biggest challenge, of course, comes when parents may see a gifted child, a child gifted, for example, in drawing and in art, but they're not good in math and physics. And then they wonder, this child who is so artistic, how do I help them to improve their talent? Where do I send them? A child who is a great musician, where do I send them? A child who can sing very well, like the opera singers, where do I send them? So the challenge is not just with the parent recognizing the gift in the child, which may not be academics, but for us as a nation, creating opportunities for these children. So that we don't just say, if you don't make it to high school, then you can go to a polytechnic. Polytechnic looks like a cheaper place to go to. It's like if you do not make it to high school or make it to university to study to be a doctor, you can become an artist, and here is an institution where you can improve your art.
Right.
So we need to be careful that actually people that are gifted in special ways, like I remember there was someone who was like always wandering in class. You could not focus. But it's because the person was so gifted that so many thoughts would come at the same time and they were not able to focus. Now that person, we need to find out what is it that they can do to use their energy, because the energy is so much. Tell them to do math. It's like, I've finished, so next what? So they become disruptive in class because they're very intelligent. So opportunities. And so what I'm saying is that failure should not define anyone who has not passed an exam. The question is, what are your other gifts? Mm-hmm. How can you identify them? How can we channel those gifts? How can the nation create opportunities? How can parents refuse to define the child with the word failure?
Right.
Say, my child is different. I need to find out what else can they do.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, the other thing is the CES told us where C+ students will go to. They will go here, they will go to this institution, they'll go there, when it comes to the placement of students afterwards. But the CS fails to tell us where D+ and below students will go to.
Thank you. Several things, and let me start first from where Dr. Mwiti stopped. Several things explain people making or not making grades. And unfortunately, here we tend to assume that the grade reflects the level of knowledge acquired, and often they don't. So some of the people we are saying failed but still made it, the grades didn't reflect the knowledge they had. Very many times those grades don't reflect. And when they don't reflect the knowledge, then you start seeing a situation where you are saying this one failed exam but they are doing better. They are actually more knowledgeable than the one who appeared to have passed the exam. That is a point we need to note. Second, is that sometimes people don't make grades because they are not gifted in what they are being tested in. And that is where the new curriculum that is being proposed comes in to say, let us create options for people with different talents so that everyone can excel in what they are able to excel. They say if you keep testing a fish on whether it can climb a tree, you will...
It's unfair.
That fish will be a failure for its entire life, and because you are testing it in what it can't do.
And now that you've touched on curriculum,
yes,
go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
So that for me is important. But there are people who don't make grades because of poor work ethic.
Right.
They are capable of passing an exam. They sit in a class. They don't take anything seriously. And they don't pass exam, not because they are being tested in what they can't do, but they're being tested in what requires effort to do, and they're not willing to commit that effort. And that poor work ethic follows them in life, because you have failed to be disciplined to wake up and study. You fail to be disciplined at any workplace, and you fail to be disciplined even in your own personal life. And so some non-performance in exam reflects that. And it's important to distinguish that when it reflects that lack of discipline, what is the intervention? The intervention is not to take you to a polytechnic. You will be indisciplined there. And you will come out of there without acquiring knowledge. And the alternative is not to say, go to a music school or go to this. It is indiscipline. You are capable of doing what intellectually capable, and you're not committing effort.
So work ethic also plays a role.
So the intervention is different for that kind of person. And the other kind of person who is being tested in what they're not talented in, and who need to be given an option for something else so they can excel there.
Okay, so Jonathan Wesaya, he's touched on the issue of curriculum. And a lot of debate around the curriculum has been there for the best part of last year. Nevertheless, the question that also arises is that do we just need to modify and review 844 instead of doing away with the entire curriculum? Let me just get your thoughts on that.
I want to declare that I'm a product of 844 and a very proud product. When I hear people say that the graduates of 844 are half-baked, I am usually very careful to remind them that I'm not one of them. the system has had its challenges, 844. But I think we are having two things, that the implementers of the 844 system went through another system, and they have had a hangover of the system they went through. They think it was better. So they have not committed, you know, to make 844 succeed. Structurally, 844 was dead on arrival, in that it has never been implemented as it was conceptualized. What is beginning to worry me with our proposal to change into the competency-based curriculum is that some of the challenges that have bedeviled 844 are being carried into the new curriculum that we want to implement, as the Cabinet Secretary said, from today. And it is an issue of resourcing and long-term planning. As we speak, 2 days ago, the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development placed an advert calling for people to publish books and distribute them. And that tender, at times it worries me being a Kenyan. That tender is going to close on the 22nd of January. Now, if it is closing on 22nd of January, let's say publishing takes February, distribution happens in March. So why are we insisting that we are rolling off this new curriculum as schools open tomorrow when the material that we need to use is not ready? So, you know, we are setting the cart before the horse, and we are telling Kenyans, just be calm, everything is okay. Kenyans cannot be calm because every household, Zenzi, in this country invests in the excess of 70% of its income in formal education. So it is a very dear investment for every household. So as the leadership and the people bestowed with the responsibility of changing the system and preparing the materials required to make it work, we just need to make it right from the word go. We cannot flip-flop.
Okay, so Dr. Gladys Mwiti, how would you advise a student and even a parent to go about accepting the grades that they have? So I've gotten this 278 or 186. How do I go about accepting that, you know what, this is the best I could do, this is my grade as a student, but also then a parent accepting, you know what, this is what my child was able to do and I accept it?
The reality is that bad grades are stressing, they are depressing. And so we need to realize that someone will be depressed, they will be, because preparing for that exam is so stressful. It's many years of input, and this is a final goal because you are told this is the exam that defines you, you know, unless you go back to the way we're going to be grading with the new curriculum. But currently is that this is what defines you. And so when you get to the point there and you get your 180 points out of X, it's like then finally all the energy I've put there has resulted to nothing. So there's a bad feelings of I am a failure, I don't measure. Then of course the parents too. Sometimes parents need to realize are more stressed even than the child. Because like he said, the amount of time and energy and the resources. So that you have a depressed child, you have a stressed, depressed parent. So accepting these grades is to realize that, you know what, these grades don't define me. They define an area of me which was measured and I didn't make it. Take for example sports. Some of us are very poor in sports. Like for me, I remember if we ran around the field, even the whole square would be the last one, you know, but then academics would be top of the class. So there are different abilities. This doesn't define me. So accepting those grades is first, they don't define me. Number two, God who has made me as a purpose for me. And maybe these grades are not the way to lead me to that particular purpose if I don't get to that school I intended to go. So what else can I do with what I have? What opportunities do I have? And then working very hard at any opportunities that open. Keep on knocking and creating around us a support system that doesn't repeat to us that we are a failure. So basically, low grades are not me. They should define my identity. And so I need to allow myself not to keep repeating in my mind, I am a failure. Because what I'm seeing in my mind, I become.
Right. All right. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Emmanuel, very short in 30 seconds because of time.
In 30 seconds. One, before you accept grades, you need to do an honest reflection. Is this the best you could make? I know so many PhD holders who made it after a second attempt because they were not convinced with the first results. They repeated and they did much better and they proceeded to success to higher levels. Secondly, let me emphasize that we need to change the curriculum. But I'm worried that we want to do it haphazardly. I wish we can take a little more time and plan to implement this curriculum well. It has been thought out well. It has been designed well. Let us implement it well.
All right. So that's Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa. He is the county manager for Uwezo, as well as Jonathan Wesaya, closer to me, an education expert at the center. Dr. Gladys Muti, she's a consulting clinical psychologist. Before we can close off the show, let me read quickly a few of your comments. One says, education is key to basic standard living. Key to success is more than education. It's knowledge. David, you say, personally, it's not based on the current state of our nation where money does the talking. I'm not against education, but we should face the reality. Olo, you say yes, but not in Kenya. The elite leave this country every year, every month for good jobs elsewhere because of too many societal ills that are taking the country hostage, like corruption. So much of your feedback we received this morning on Twitter in regards to what we were asking you, whether you think education is the only key to success. Thank you for your time, for your contribution and being part of this program. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Remember, this week, Morning Express starts at 7 a.m. We still have a lot more in store for you tomorrow. I'll see you then. My name is Zinziki Biku. Good morning.